Anyways, I'm Barrett Leviner, team lead for Consolidated Oversight Monitoring. And this is my team here, Peggy Scott, Dr. Greg King, and Clint Palmer. All right. So we are going to take you through the wonderful and exciting world of monitoring of federal programs. If you haven't seen this presentation before, most of you probably have. Who's new in the room, by the way? Anybody new to the position? Where are you from? Aiken. Will you add Aiken to the monitoring list for next year? Who else? I saw one in the back. All right. Yeah. So it's helping me help you. That's all. So a lot of these slides are some repeats. We'll kind of buzz through some things. At any time during the presentation, please interrupt. Say, hey, can you put that back up? Ask a question, whatever the case may be. We're here to work through this process together because we want to be a team with you in the districts. We want to help you have your programs running right. So when the day comes that you are monitored either by us or if the feds ever do come in, that we are running solid programs. So we'll get started. This thing works. Go ahead and just let on. All right, that's us again. We do have a vacancy that we're working on filling that position here very soon, hopefully. But that's us and our contact information. We'll also have the phone numbers and stuff at the end. Anytime you need us, please don't hesitate to call. Apologize for my bad picture. That was a surprise day. They told me to take my cell phone. All right, what monitoring is not. We don't want it to be a gotcha. We want you to be prepared for when that time comes. We monitor on what we want is a clean audit or a clean monitoring visit. So what it is, all right, this was who was being monitored this year. We monitor on a 4-year cycle, so all the districts in the state every 4 years for the federal programs. I will add in that on that same schedule, if you're being monitored for federal, we are doing the state accountability monitoring at the same time. That documentation is just monitored on like a desk audit. When you submit, a few weeks prior your federal documentation, you can submit the state. We review that. Any questions, we work it out, but it's not necessarily part of the federal visit. We just try to get both pieces of information that we have to get taken care of, so we're in and out, and you don't have to talk to us again for 4 years. Okay, that's who's on this. This is for next year anticipated, subject to change if things arise or need to be. So I'll leave that up for just a second. Anybody having the pleasure of seeing us next year? Fantastic. It makes sense why you're here. They told me they didn't want to talk. They just wanted me to talk the whole time. So I drank a lot of coffee this morning, so this should be fun. Monitoring process overview. What it is, we're monitoring for requirements and compliance with ESSA. We're providing technical assistance along the way and after if need be. We're working with LEAs to support programs and meet the requirements of the laws in that for those grants. When is it? Like I said, a 4-year cycle. And also there are exceptions if the district reaches through our risk assessment process. If you're a high, medium risk district, there may be some additional monitoring that takes place as required by some of those grants. We let you know on that, when those things come up. And if you're being monitored, we let you know. All right, how it's done, review evidence previously collected. Typically, we want to look at a full year of your program. So if we're monitoring you in the fall, we're probably going to look at the year prior. So we have a fall and spring, and you have a full school year to look at your documentation. Now there's some exceptions. If you're being monitored like in April, we can look at might look at stuff from that fall, but we really want to get a full scope of that program and how you were spending that money for that particular school year. And we're doing it through a desk slash kind of a hybrid model where you can submit your documentation early through Crate, Google Drive, however you collect your documentation. And then on the site visit, it's This is more of a chance for us to answer some questions, grab some documents that might be easier to see in person, do some site visits, that kind of thing. So we are doing consolidated monitoring, so we're monitoring all programs, Titles 1 through 5, and N&D if you have it, and then also the McKinney-Vento piece in there as well. All districts will receive an email. This is probably our process by August. My goal is end of July, first week of August to send out like an actual schedule. We're kind of planning on coming in April. We're planning on coming in whatever month. You will have your assigned monitor, and then you can work out a specific date with them. We've done that this past year. Thought it was a lot easier just to work around, any like holidays or whatever. So we'll kind of let's work out our visit schedule that way instead of me making up an arbitrary date. And that all happens there in August. And I'll say when I send out the email in August, so all the districts can anticipate it for next year, we'll send the schedule out to the whole state. From there, if you're being monitored, you'll get follow-up information. Okay. So in August, you get an email. Your name's not on that list. You're not being monitored that year. Okay. All right. So these are the sections, the information documentation we're looking at. These overreaching requirements line up to our monitoring tool. And as we're right here, our monitoring tool has been updated. We actually cleaned it up, got some redundancy out of it. That will be sent out or released in some way in the next couple weeks. Not much has changed. The layout's not different. It's just there's some cleanup. There were some areas where you may have been putting the same documentation, covered a few different things. We've kind of combined some of those indicators to make it just a little bit cumbersome. And it will also take time because on our website, the federal monitoring, the state tool hasn't changed. The federal tool, though, on our website is that kind of like a website sorting tool where you can isolate the different titles, pull the information for specific areas. That will take some time for Eric to update. So we're trying to figure out the best way to kind of put out. The reason we have to do it that way is if it goes on our website, it has to be accessible. Our actual monitoring tool, like the Word document form, is all but impossible to make completely accessible. They have that sorting tool is, so that may take some time. So at any point in the next couple weeks, if you're wondering, especially if you're up for next year, you want to start putting some information together, email me, email one of us, say, hey, the tool is ready to go. We got to figure out the best way to send it out to where it's accessible and meets, our requirements. But also, I know it takes a little while for them to update that website version. So if any time, I can email you directly the document, but if we're posting it for public consumption, it might take a little bit more time. Any questions about that? All right, so this is just kind of like our timeline in a box form. So you get the notification of being monitored. At that point, or before, you've already kind of formed your team. You're knowing who needs to collect what data. Should all this data in our protocol, should that be things that you're just throwing together right now because you're being monitored next year? Say that again louder. No, these are things that you're keeping up with as your year goes on. Every year you're having your meetings, you're having parent and family engagement opportunities, you're having all those things are things your schools, your district levels collecting all along. So when it comes to being monitored, you're just packaging those things in something that can be easily reviewed by us. Okay. All right. And after our visit, we try to get out the report 6 weeks after. A lot of times it's within the next week or two. It just depends on our schedule. My folks over there are wonderful. They go out, visit. They've probably done all the work ahead of time. You're going to probably find out the results of your visit fairly quickly. I'm very slow, so I know there's a couple out there. It might take a little bit longer just based off of the schedule and what we have going on. All right, so they're very efficient. I'm not really efficient. I was kidding. That was a joke. All right, we'll buzz through this because that's just more of that. All right, and so I was talking about the new tool. Like I said, we finished the last edits on it last week. Just got to figure out the best way to get it out to y'all quickest. because I don't want you waiting into the summer for that website to be. So anytime you want, just reach out, please. Types of documentation we're going to be looking for, email correspondence, memos, dated meeting agendas, also signed sign-in sheets along with those, at those meetings. If it's if we're still in a situation where it's a virtual meeting, some sort of proof of who attended that meeting, depending on what it is. Checklist with comments, records of inventory, physical documentation, websites, and any other documentation is within our protocol. I will say there's some places in it where it says SCD preparation, so no documentation necessary. That's a lie. You might want to send that to us if you have it anyways. For example, anything that's like pulled from PowerSchool, we don't have direct access, so it's easier for you to run a report that's in there. Please do so. Save some back and forth. All right, so if you use Title I Crate, you can put it, it's in there. Title I Crate is now aligned, especially for next year, with our protocol. So all the areas they're aligned with our protocol, so you can drop the documentation right where it needs to go, where it goes, no guessing. Also, we can review like Google Drive or the Microsoft documentation version of that. You work with your monitor on how you're going to give the documentation. All right, keep on going from there. Site visit, typically we try to get to the district office or wherever we're meeting around 9 a.m. Want to do a couple school visits, and in the D facility, if you happen to serve one, at that time we'll have the opportunity to look at documentation if we need to, answer any questions, debrief, and then we try to get back out of there mid-afternoon so we can get back home and get you on with your day. All right, and then the report, hopefully within a few weeks after your visit. And I will say, like, if it goes a couple weeks, and you're like, just always ask where the process is. It's like, for me, for example, I went and monitored a visit a district on Thursday. Now we're here 2 days this week. We've got some other things going on the rest of this week. It could take a while to get back to you. So if you ever work, just reach out and ask. We're here. We respond to emails, phone calls. We don't bite, except for Peggy. You notice how I've said several times, like, if you have questions, reach out. There used to be, I think there was an old rumor that, like, if you asked too many questions, it was kind of like a ding. Is that true?
That's rumor. You keep saying old with my name back to back. But we're bad with math. We don't count how many times you call. Okay, please call us as much as you need. We would much rather spend a lot of time with you now than write up 5 minutes later. Please call us. We will not count.
We were just talking just a few minutes ago, Greg and I, and I would prefer, our job is probably a lot of trying to get, answering questions, a lot of pre-work, so that when it comes to this process, you're in good shape. You're good to go. We'd rather have it. We'd rather have you in a good place than have to deal with it after the fact. Does that make sense? We want to be proactive. All right. So some common challenges that come up, and if you come to our session this afternoon, we're going to be kind of talking through, I got a finding, and here's some examples. Here's what we do to resolve. So, but there's some, in preparing for a monitoring visit, some common challenges that we still have is adequate level of documentation. So, if you think I could provide more, all right? You can't document things enough. Making sure you're using current forms, because things get updated, so making sure the home language survey, enrollment surveys, bid packets, make sure those are the most current version of that form. Don't just keep using the same form, for 10 years, and those things do change, and where it seems minor, it can become big issues. Okay, expenditures and procurements. Also, when you talk about expenditures and procurements, make sure you're evaluating your return on investment, right? If you've been paying for the same math program for 6 years, and you just what we know is what we use. Make sure you're spending money on stuff that's working, right? Have some way to evaluate that return on investment. So we're doing best for our kids. Okay. Make sure your policies and procedures are up to date. With your internal policies and procedures, especially for your federal programs, we want to look at those at least every 2 years. Put a little review by, date it. Get credit for your homework. That those things, we don't want to see a procedure that's dated, last revised, 10 years ago, right? You want to see current dates. I know something best practice would be like all policies and procedures district wide. I know board approvals and things that can, board policies can be trickier to get updated. But the things that we would be looking at, let's make sure you may not change anything, but let's make sure it looks like it's up to date. Somebody's at least looked at it recently. You want to add anything to that?
The guidance we've received from the USCD, the first thing they look, and Brewman Law Firm, Tiffany Kessler, whatever their names. The first thing that's looked at is internal controls. If they're outdated, think about a table with little teeny drill bits going down to real large drill bits. If the internal controls are fine, that's an indication. They've actually got numbers on this. Over 90% of the time, everything else is under control. It's going to be good business. They stay with the little teeny drill bit. If there's issues with the internal controls, issues can mean that your policy procedure is 10 years old, just been forgotten about. They start with the medium drill bit. Got that, what else is forgotten? That's why we push that. That, as Barrett stated, that's worth a review February, March, whenever you have time. Keep in mind, too, a lot of things are in multiple locations. Just develop a checklist. They all have to be updated and aligned. Because if we find a version, something in the procurement manual, and you're not following your policies and procedures, that's a fine. That's automatic. It's a simple oversight, but it's a fine. That's why we push that is directly from USCD.
And one other thing that I've seen recently is like when they have tight internal controls of like checklists of who does what when, but they had it person specific. Let's be position specific if that's what it requires, because that person could come and go. So when you're writing these things, make it like position specific. So if someone leaves, something changes, that now we're looking for Greg that's supposed to be turning in checks. Greg's not here anymore. Does that make sense?
Specific date stamp. Say December 20th, all teachers will sign the time and effort. Say sometime in December, at the end of the term. Make it general. Because if you have it signed the 21st, that's a fine. Or the 19th. Look through it through the lens and give yourself some slack. Take some of the burden off.
So stuff with family and community engagements, making sure the big thing here is the documentation of stakeholders' involvement. Also, those various times to participate. So we're not always doing I'm sorry, I'm right here. We're not doing a specific, every other Monday, at 5 o'clock. Give plenty of opportunities for broad participation. Equitable services, making sure that we have our documentation. I know that sometimes you have no control if the private school you're reaching out to does not respond to you. Document it as such, right? Don't make us dig, and it just covers you, CYA. As I sent the form out, didn't get a response. I called on this date. I sent an email on this. Like, have that documented, because if it's just like, well, I sent it to them and there's nothing that shows of any kind of back and forth or follow up, we don't know, who did what. So. Multilingual programs, just making sure there's invitations and things that go out or sent out in language that the families can understand. Not just, you know, we know a wide majority is probably going to be Spanish, but like, let's look, if you have families who aren't, let's make sure they have the ability to get things in a language they can understand. I'm not saying you need to make, you know, 6 different flyers in 6 different languages, but if you need to do that, you have the opportunity and availability to do that. Okay. We're talking about internal controls. Tight internal controls makes the whole thing smooth, because that's the best way to eliminate issues, is having, this is how we do it, and doing it that way. Time and effort, you know, always comes up, making sure if you're doing those semi-annuals, they're signed, you know, first semester, in the second semester. Make sure you get it done when you can get, if you're doing it where everybody has to get a signature, make sure you're doing it when, you know, don't think about it in June when you can't get in touch with anybody, right? Make sure you get the right people to sign, whatever. All right. Maintenance of effort. This is a lot of slides here, but we're going to kind of buzz through this. Jim, you want to go ahead and give the synopsis?
Who knows what maintenance of effort is? Wow, no great people here. Maintenance effort comparability are 2 tests. One is for financial, it's maintenance effort. Another is staffing, which is comparability. Maintenance effort is if you take all your CFA, your scheduled federal awards, you take that off all of your federal expenditures, and you boil that down to what you just spent for local and fiscal effort, local and fiscal dollars. The USCD wants to see that your local and state dollars are consistent from year to year. The non-regulatory guidance with supplement not supplant, which is part of that, maintenance effort comparability, stress consistent. That's used over and over. So if you spend $10,000 per student this year, you need to spend within 90% of that next year. Do yourself a favor. We know with ESSA funding ending, we know from the pandemic, we have no idea what can happen tomorrow. Give yourself a buffer. You do not want to have 10,000 this year, 15,000 next year. So what do you have to do the year after? You have to meet that. If you don't meet it, say you fall 5% short, you still got to come up with that 90% number the following year. You got to dig yourself out of the hole. So if you're 5% short and you can't do it, you could lose 5% of your federal ESSA funding, not just Title I. It's a big number. If you need more detailed instructions, call me. It can get really detailed. This comes out of your finance department. You need to play nice with your finance director. If you don't, you're in trouble. The finance director has to understand that you need to understand maintenance effort. So play nice.
Raise your hand if you know your finance director. Raise your hand if your finance director is in this room right now.
You all have to be politically correct. And I recognize a few. It's something, if it's your first year, it's not going to make any sense, neither will comparability. Comparability, you work with HR and your finance director. The second year, it's going to start making sense. The third year, you got to do. Give yourself time. Be patient, but you got to meet it. USCD will accept no excuses. There are waivers involved. They're hard to get. Just give yourself plenty of time. Any general questions?
Wasn't through the sign. These are available on the Who app. So
again, email any of us. I tend to get the emails. Call me, email me. I don't care how much it takes. I'll work with you on this.
Hopefully y'all are familiar with that. So just reminders that, like you said, the failure to not meet MOE can be a very big deal, right? Waivers aren't easy to get, so we want to work, like I said, be proactive ahead of time to work through issues and make sure we're meeting that requirement before it's too late. Okay. All right. kind of go through the waiver request. Like you said, penalties for not meeting MOE is that reduction in funds by whatever percentage you missed it by. Okay, so it can be a lot of money. All right. And the biggest thing on the tips and friendly advice is ask questions. You can email any of us. I'm going to forward it to Greg, and we'll get an answer for you.
Human E. Levine.
All right, so comparability, we'll kind of go through that too. It's a lot of slides, but we didn't want to take any of the slides out because you'll have it for your use at home, getting ready for bed and stuff. But comparability is just that test of fairness. So like you're not putting all the experienced teachers in one school and all the inexperienced or what have you. And this is an HR function, like Greg said. Really important to kind of work through it. Timeline up. You want to make sure you don't want to like try to be comparable like right at the last minute because it could mean shifting people around and that's no good for anybody, especially not last minute. If you have to make some shifts mid-year, maybe it's not ideal, but it's better than making a shift, mid-semester or whatever. So you just want to be making sure you're working with those folks, in a timely manner to get comparable without having to uproot things already set in place. And so you can there's different ways to calculate it. It's just eight ways.
There's 8 ways you can calculate it. We push the student-teacher ratio. There are other ways. During the pandemic, I worked with the majority of districts, all 8 ways. I still have master spreadsheets built up for that. They don't help. The student-teacher ratio, honestly, is the easiest to achieve. And again, that is, as you can tell, you're dealing with people. So that's HR. But to shift people around, you need the finance director. So you've got 3 people. It's a planning issue. That's coming straight from the USCD. Maintenance effort, supplement ops plan, comparability is a planning issue. If you don't meet those, if you fail to meet those criteria, you have failed to plan. And that is a quote that I received from the USCD in an email. They're harsh. So.
And so we'll talk. So with the eligibility, so to make sure you're counting the right people, right? So I can't remember what we have. Like if you don't, you've got to compare apples to apples when you're being comparable. So if you have like a district where it's 1 school per grade band, there's nothing to compare to, right? What do you do if you're all Title I schools, say for elementary in your district? If you're wanting to compare the elementary. Yeah. So you would pick the top to, you would find a way to discriminate, even though they're all Title I schools, which one is the most, in need or whatever.
Use your least core Title I school as your non-Title I school. And that gives you a benchmark for that.
Things, when we're doing those counts, we want to make sure that those reports are pulled on the same day and they're within the actual program. Like we don't want you to just send us a Word document with the numbers. It needs to be from your accounting program. That's the same for MOE as well. All right. Don't count 3 or 4 year olds. Anybody know why we don't count 3 or 4 year olds? When they wrote ESSA, the preschool didn't exist, or not formally. So that's why, and it hasn't changed. Even though we can spend some money on those edge levels now, they still don't use it as a calculation. All right. So, like I said, anytime there's questions on this stuff, please let us know. It's easier to work to give a phone call and work through things than it is to guess.
Please email this to me by the 15th of November. For some reason, I didn't get a lot of them. I'm still missing 1 district. it needs to come to me November 15th, so I can review it. If you're not there, send me an email, say we're struggling. I'll work with you. I'll never let you go. But I need it by November 15th. And as Barrett said, the biggest cause of rejection, your ADM and the reports have to run the same day. I don't care if you calculate it a week later. Both reports have to be run the same day. That's straight from the guidance. Otherwise, it's no good.
For the exceptions, you know, you have a situation where you have nothing to compare to. Common issues are those reports being on different days. You might be counting the wrong folks, and that source documentation wasn't provided, which would be the report from whatever system you're using, not a personal spreadsheet or something. All right, updated policies and procedures. All right, so what the importance is from. Yeah, so we're making sure that as, you know, I know a lot of us attend conferences and we get information from different groups, making sure our things are up to date with what's going on, you know, with the ESSA programs on the federal level. We do our best to put out the information we can. That's what this, you know, these 2 days are about. If there are updates you didn't know about, but stay up to date. Make sure you're updating your documentation as things change. Okay. We have some updates regarding inventory. Wow. Who likes doing inventory? Who likes inventorying all the things that are $100 and above that are spent by the Title I funds are spent on? Did he say he liked it? Did you hear that?
I think they liked it.
No.
Would you like a higher threshold?
Yes.
We have decided.
So, a little bit of history for those who might be new. We had our own threshold was $100 for the Title I funds.
Picture for the screen.
We had a more restrictive requirement than the feds. The reason being, at the time, what was being purchased a lot of that cost about $100 that was very easy to walk out the door?
Oh my God.
Graphing calculators. Funny story. I did have a district this year that has graphics. A lot of people they've moved to like the kids buy their own, and they're not using the funds for those. You know, our big things we're spending on physical items are like iPads, laptops, that kind of stuff. A little bit higher ticket items. I did have a district that did purchase a school set of graphing calculators as we were making these changes. So I kind of laughed about it. So the federal threshold is actually changing to 10,000. We're not going to do that. Our state's threshold is 2,500. We have to follow the most restrictive. Okay, 2,500 is better than what? Okay. All right. So here's the exception. It's that last line. Please inventory those things that you could deem highly walkable. So that would be, you know, like an iPad or a laptop, or, you know, those prices go up and down. So that's why we're kind of putting that stipulation in there. If you're worried about it getting up and leaving, and it's less than the 2,500, please still keep inventory on that. Follow all the policies that are with it, with retention, records retention, disposal, and everything. But that does give you some flexibility. You know, for example, you bought a computer card, right? What are the chances that computer card's going to leave the building? That card maybe costs $400. You may not need to inventory that. You have a $250 Chromebook. What's the chances that could leave the building? If you send them home with kids for a potential e-learning day, it could be lost. Let's inventory that. Okay? Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Going for, like, so, and that's a good question. Like, anything that you've already done this year, you probably already bought it. You don't have to go back and adjust your inventory. Going forward, start following this, okay? We don't need you to go back and change anything, take stuff out, but going forward, start using this.
As of today.
It was actually as of 3 weeks ago, so
Just as a preface, the first year I started doing inventory, we had over $250,000 in shortages throughout the state. Second year is about 300,000. That's why it was so tight. Everybody here, new or not, thank you. I've said thank you. I don't know how many times individually as a group. Now we've been talking about this for a few years. It's the same threshold as what's used throughout the agency. We are 100% even. But thank you for your efforts. That's the only way we can do this. Don't slack up. Now, Barrett said we can do highly walkable items, whatnot. That's changes in your procedures. Where am I going with that? Update. If it requires board approval, we know that takes forever, and you happen to be one of the privileged people who will be monitored about 6 months from now. Show us the progression through the board. Show us draft copies. When it's done after the fact, send us the official copy and the board approval. We know that takes a while, but don't give us this is your warning. Don't give us a reason to write about it. Update your procedures. But again, thank you.
We'll still see within your, within your plans, like if you planned on purchasing these many things, and if we come in and say, where are these 50 iPads, you may not. I would think those would be inventory personally, but it may be something and you don't know where they're at, like that could still trigger issues. So don't let the flexibility come back to hurt you. Okay, we still need to be good stewards of the things we're spending our money on. All right, that's just the definition of equipment. It's nothing new. Supplies. So a question about like supplies, we kind of asked this versus equipment. That projector, is it a supply or is it equipment? The light bulb in it, is it a supply or equipment? Who knows how much the light bulb costs roughly? More than the projector sometimes, but it's consumable. So that's kind of the big difference between equipment and supplies. Typically, supplies are consumable. Okay. And why we go through the inventory process with our federal money is because EDGAR says we have to. When you do have an inventory list, these items need to be on it. Okay, all of them. A lot of times we'll see, like your IT department has their own inventory process, and you just put it that these are the items that Title I purchased on that list. Have a spreadsheet that has this information on it. Okay. Like I said, this will be available in the thing, or you have any questions, let us know. All right. Just going back to remember the update those internal controls and define the highly walkable items. Should be doing your own inventory within your district annually. Go to the place and don't just trust the front desk secretary to say, yeah, I got all 15 whatevers. Go do a check on your own, talking to federal directors to see that those things are there. Okay, make sure you're documenting the documentation retention policy. How many years is that? How long should you be keeping the inventories? And then also maintaining the same, like if it had a police report because something was stolen or lost, and those kind of things, and your disposal information. If you kept the record for 6 years, you disposed of it. How long should you keep that disposal information? Keep on going. You may have disposed of it after 4 years because they were just obsolete. Continue that records retention. Okay. these are some links that do work in the presentation, or at least they did when we made it, with some more information about our topics. All right, now for the fun part. Questions, please. You got 10 minutes. Somebody ask Clint a question, please. He's new. Anything I missed, team? Anything we want to add? Come on, somebody has to have a question. Or other any questions? Any questions? Yeah. Yes. Perfect. Well, where you at? Okay.
So comparability. Would you suggest running this report throughout the year just to make sure that we are staying, so that when we come down to this February 15th deadline, that I'm not like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maintenance effort comparability, I recommend quarterly reviews. Especially anybody coming up to consolidation or closing schools, opening new schools, that'll put you in a tailspin. You've got to plan for it. Going back to that email I got from the USCD, you've got to plan. But do regular reviews with your HR. If adjustments are needed, you need to loop in your finance person. And again, it comes down to planning. Whatever works for you in the district.
Any other question, maybe?
It's not a graph, but just like a little bullet list of like who to include, who not to include. Can we get the timeline on that little list, on the same thing as that list, just to keep with us when we're doing comparability? Because I always, every time I do it, I'm like, okay, make sure I have this person.
I like a little checklist.
But it's good to have that timeline to be able to see monthly, okay, I need to make sure I'm doing this.
Send me an email. gking.edu.
Right here.
Yeah, send me an email. I'll make sure you get it. Anybody else who wants it. I think it's available, but I will send it to you.
You just was one where you got on there, who was it, who excluded, who helped.
One more.
That's it.
On calculating comparability, you've got exclude principals, assistant. In the actual document, if they are not excluded, they are included.
They're included. Yeah, that's correct.
Could be human.
They're included.
So, Greg, clarify what it should say. Just say it loud. What it should be with the.
This says excluded principals, assistant principals. I apologize. That's my oversight. They're included. They're considered educational and instructional. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't know who said it, but thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys update that when you update on the since we're not downloading our presentation slides, if you're going to use this as a reference.
Yes.
Thank you.
We will figure out how to do that. Last time I tried to upload it like that last year's, it didn't work. I had to get somebody else to do it because it wouldn't let me upload, but we'll get it fixed. So give us might be next week. All right. Anything else? So we purposely put stuff in here to see if you're actually paying attention. So that brings me to our door prize time.